Hello students, welcome to the lecture on Total Quality Management, and after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Describe the Total Quality Management philosophy, understand about TQM principles and tools, explain the quality through design, define the quality management system and ISO 9000, understand QS 9000. Let's start with the concept of total quality management. A name itself is sufficient to describe everything, but a bit more clarification will add to a base for the description. Total quality management is a management's approach towards the quality. It can be in regard to products, customer satisfaction, and employee satisfaction. The concept of TQM was developed by an American, W. Edwards Deming, and that is why it is called as Deming's concept of TQM. TQM is...
This is quality management in 3 minutes. You're a test manager. People are always coming to you with questions. Are all the requirements tested? Is everything working? And the big one, are we ready to ship? But crunching all of your data down to one simple answer is not easy. There's lots of data to track, such as test requirements, test results, and defect lists. And that's if you're lucky. For many, gathering that data is challenge enough, as it is often spread out across your organization, stored in different tools, on different servers, in different buildings, cities, or even different countries. Collecting all of that data and reducing it down to answer this one key question quickly becomes an overwhelming, time-consuming effort. What you need is a way to create a plan that captures and tracks different types of data, a way to execute manual and automated tests to fulfill your plan, and a way to convert all of this data into information that you can use for decision making. What you need is IBM Rational Quality Manager. Yay! Let's see how this works. Meet Tim, the test manager. Tim's company is releasing a new software application, and it's Tim's job to ensure that the application meets all of the business objectives it was designed to support. Tim starts by creating a test plan using the Web 2.0 based interface of Rational Quality Manager. Tim's plan contains information about business objectives, requirements, test environments, test cases, and any other piece of information he needs to keep track of as part of his goal of ensuring his application meets his business objectives. Next, and very importantly, Tim assigns responsibility for each of the sections of the test plan to the various members of the team. He assigns business objectives to Bob in Boston, requirements to Rick in Rome, test cases to Lester in London. In teams of more than one person, assigning ownership is the first step towards collaboration, getting the whole team working in lockstep towards a common business objective. As responsibilities are assigned, each user gets a new item on their to-do list and also gets notification of all other activity on the team activity list. As Lester builds his test cases to fulfill Bob's business objectives, he links them to Rick's requirements. This will enable Test Manager Tim to be able to know which requirements have been covered and, more importantly, which have not. When Lester the tester wants to run his manual tests, Rational Quality Manager will prompt him with step-by-step instructions for completing the test. For Lester's automated tests, Rational Quality Manager will figure out the most efficient path to ensure coverage of all the different environments Lester must validate. Finally, Rational Quality Manager gives the whole team the reports they need to answer their key questions. What's been tested? Are all the requirements covered? And the big one, are we ready to ship? Rational Quality Manager helps you collaborate, automate, and govern your software delivery process. Download your free trial today by clicking on this link.
TQM is nowadays called as TPM, Total Productivity Management, and an organization needs to consider ABCD for the effective application of TQM, where A stands for accident cure, B stands for breakdown, C stands for cost reduction, and D stands for damage. This policy of ABCD is in relation to product, and if TQM needs to be introduced, a positive attitude from the side of management and employees is required, and then a collective effort will come up. Let us now discuss the total quality management philosophy. The philosophy of total quality management started after 1960, first in Japan and then later spread to the rest of the world. Quality leading companies realized that quality could not be assured by just a small group of quality control professionals. Instead, quality required the active involvement of the whole organization, from management to ordinary employees. In 1960, the first quality control circles were formed in Japan. These circles used simple statistical methods for quality improvement. Later on, a quality-oriented management approach, Total Quality Management (TQM), was developed. Now moving on to the next topic, we will study the TQM principles and tools. Total Quality Management (TQM) is an approach that organizations use to improve their internal processes and increase customer satisfaction. When it is properly implemented, this style of management can lead to decreased costs related to corrective or preventative maintenance, better overall performance, and an increased number of happy and loyal customers.
Well, what can you say about the company? To be honest with you, I was fascinated by the kind of business they are in. Besides helping out people to reduce their electricity bill means a lot for them. Tremendous. Eh? David Kansunji is the man. But we have to always remember that if you wanna be freaking successful, you've got to be very cautious on what you do. That's right. You ain't be you wanna be without aiming your goal. Thus, total quality management in general don't only apply in the workforce, it actually works too in our life. But before we end, one of the best maxim I've heard is never ever rest on your success. Very true. No matter how big time rich you are, stay humble and simple, as well as believe in yourself and pray. That's it. We hope you enjoyed our presentation. Bye.
Quality can and must be managed. Many companies have wallowed in a repetitive cycle of chaos and customer complaints. They believe that their operations are simply too large to effectively manage the level of quality. The first step in the TQM process then is to realize there is a problem and that it can be controlled. Processes, not people, are the problem. If our process is causing problems, it would not matter how many times we hire new employees or how many training sessions we put them through. Correct the process and then train people on these new procedures. Do not treat symptoms, look for the cure. If we just patch over the underlying problems in the process, we will never be able to fully reach our potential. Go for the source to correct the problem. Every employee is responsible for quality. Everyone in the company, from the workers on the line to the upper management, must realize that they have an important part to play in ensuring high levels of quality in their products and services. Everyone has a customer to delight, and they must all step up and take responsibility for them. Quality must be measurable. A quality management system is only effective when we can quantify the results. We need to see how the process is implemented and if it is having the desired effect. This will help we set our goals for the future and ensure that every department is working towards the same result. Quality improvements must be continuous. Total quality management is not something that can be done once and then forgotten. It's not a management phase that will end after a problem has been corrected. Real improvements must occur frequently and continually in order to increase customer satisfaction and loyalty. Quality is a long-term investment. Quality management is not a quick fix. We can purchase QMS software that will help us get things started, but we should understand that real results would not occur immediately. TQM is a long-term investment and it is designed to help us find long-term success.
ISO have recognised and described 8 key principles of operation, and these are described in both the ISO 9000 and 9004 standards and need to be adopted for all organisations operating quality management systems under these standards. These 8 quality management principles form the basis for the quality management system standards within the ISO 9000 series. Customer focus. All organisations depend on their customers, and therefore they should understand the customer needs and expectations. To do this, they should plan to meet these needs and also try to exceed expectations in both the current needs and the future needs and expectations. This is within the clauses of ISO 9001 for the direction of the quality system, the policy, objectives, planning, production, awareness and service provision, monitoring of customer satisfaction and continual improvement. Also in the standard, it has its own clause for customer focus. Leadership. A quality policy needs to be established by top management and give objectives to give direction and purpose to the organisation. These objectives should create an environment where staff can become involved in achieving objectives, and these should be driven by top management and involve everybody within the organisation. Involvement of people. This all starts with communications with the customer and transmittal of this information to all concerned in order to meet the customer's requirements. People in the organisation at all levels need to be involved in meeting the customer needs, and their full involvement enables their abilities to be used for the benefit of the organisation themselves, the fellow worker and the customer. Any communication between parties involved should be written down, and production of service processes should be conducted in accordance with these written instructions. Process approach to management. The desired result is achieved more effectively if activities and related resources are managed as a process. This process approach should focus on controls on the inputs into the process and the prevention of non-conformity. This is the system approach to management. The supplier of the products and service should plan how they're going to meet the customer's requirements. These plans should cover all activities relating to quality, from initial customer contacts to delivery and monitoring customer satisfaction. Identifying, understanding and managing all these interrelated processes as a system contribute to effectiveness and efficiency in achieving your business objectives. Controls over the links and interfaces of the processes involved are essential to good management. Continual improvement. This should be the aim of everyone in the organisation, as no one and no system are ever perfect. We must learn from errors and problems that arise and continually improve our systems. We should adopt preventative measures such as training and audits to preempt any problems that may arise. Continual improvement of the overall performance of the company should be a permanent objective of the organisation. Factual approach to decision making. Effective decisions are based on the analysis of data and information. Information and data gathering systems with how these are going to be communicated should be established under a quality management system. Information should be gathered in an unbiased and, wherever possible, an independent means. From these, clear communication routes are essential. Mutually beneficial supplier relationships. Suppliers and customers depend on each other, and the mutually beneficial relationship will result in benefits to all parties, and these can be improved quality, financial returns, better consistency and stability. These relationships start with clear communications and are built on consistency of purpose and trust.
Let's discuss quality through design. The quality and reliability of AnaDigix products are a result of a comprehensive design, characterization, and qualification process. Each design is scrutinized against design rules for manufacturability and reliability before the first prototype circuit is produced. Electrical and thermal performance simulations are also run during the design stage. Initial prototypes of the devices are characterized over the entire range of performance conditions and beyond. Data from these characterizations are compared to the simulation predictions. Design modifications and improvements to simulation programs are made based upon the characterization data. The result is an optimized circuit and improved simulations for future circuits. Some of the obstacles that can interfere with successful implementation and that must be avoided can include unrealistic time frames, resistance to change, lack of management commitment, insufficient training, or subjective interpretation of the standards.
We live in an amazing world, full of incredible opportunities and endless possibilities. But it can also be a complex and overwhelming place. When things don't work as they should, it often means that standards are absent. But when ISO standards are applied, life is just so much richer. ISO standards help to make the world a safer, cleaner, and more efficient place. From food safety to computers, from healthcare to new technologies. There are many challenges facing our environment, economy, and society. ISO can make a positive difference to all our lives, utilizing a wealth of international experience and wisdom. In today's ever-changing world, ISO standards help create growth, open up global markets, and make trade fairer, including for developing countries. ISO standards can help tackle global challenges like climate change, road safety, energy, and social responsibility. ISO standards touch almost everything we do, keeping us connected and entertained, making us more productive, more creative, sharing ideas, promoting innovation, and keeping us safe and healthy. ISO is the world's largest developer of voluntary international standards. with over 18,000 standards for nearly every aspect of technology and business. For over 60 years, a network of standards bodies in 163 countries, working in partnership around the world and right here at home. ISO builds confidence for today, for tomorrow, and for the future.
Of the standards. The appropriate personnel under the direction of management should review the standards and develop, implement, and maintain a minimum set of quality systems and procedures to satisfy the ISO 9000 standard. Further, these personnel will provide confidence to management that the intended quality is being achieved and is documented, demonstrable, effective, maintained quality systems documentation. Many professionals and consultants associated with ISO 9000 registration recommend organizing the documentation into 4 levels. Quality policies and objectives. The first level of documentation is often referred to as a quality manual and is separate and distinct from the procedures. The purpose of this level of documentation is to state in a concise and brief format the policies and objectives of the company for achieving a desired level of quality for the organization or division. At a minimum, the quality manual is required to describe the scope of our registrations, our exclusions from any ISO clauses, our quality processes, and our quality procedures. Although there is no standard format or requirement for the quality manual, a sample manual is provided in this guide for us to use as a template to create our own quality manual. Procedures and procedures and responsibilities. The second level of documentation should be more detailed and address the procedures of an activity for a department or function and the personnel, generic titles or positions responsible for accomplishing the procedures. These procedures can be organized on a departmental basis. Samples of Level 2 type departmental procedures and responsibilities documentation are provided in the ISO Policies and Procedures system. The ABR ISO 9000-2000. Quality procedures start with the designation QP and may be used as a template to create our own procedures. They are not the only format or method to accomplish the requirements. An example of where we may want to change the format is the effectiveness criteria section of certain procedures of the ISO 9001-2000 standard requires that the criteria and methods to determine the operation and control of processes are effective to be determined. It does not require the methods and criteria to be defined in the procedures. Other methods may be used. The primary reason this section was included in the procedures was to encourage thought in this area. Oftentimes, effectiveness of a process, task or activity is assumed to be known. The assumptions may not be verbally expressed, and frequently there is no agreement between departments or even between employees in the performing department. Defining these criteria and obtaining consensus among interested parties can result in significant improvement. When determining these criteria, a holistic approach as to what is best for the company should be used. An obvious example involves purchasing. In the past, purchasing effectiveness was measured by the purchase price of materials. The obvious fallacy with this measure is that out of specification or marginal components result in increased costs downstream and may actually result in higher total costs. Work instructions. This level of documentation should be very detailed on how to accomplish a specific job, task or assignment. For example, a work procedure could be developed for assembling the final housing of a product with step-by-step instructions including such details as the torque requirements of the fastening screws. Individual work instructions are very specific to an industry or company. Supplemental documentation may be used, including users' manuals, engineering or technical manuals, technical support notes, manufacturing notes, etc., in order to create detailed work instructions. Forms and other documents. The last level of documentation can include forms, records, checklists, surveys, and other documents used in the production or delivery of a product or service. Samples of quality type reports and forms and other documents are provided in this manual and may be used as a template to create our own forms. The forms provided should be used as guides, not necessarily as final documents. Again, they are there to provide examples and foundations for us to work from. The series of standards consist of ISO 9000-2005 describes the fundamentals of quality management systems which form the subject of the ISO 9000 family and specifies the terminologies used. ISO 9001-2008 is the requirement standard and its main objective is to focus organizations on achieving their quality requirements, fulfilling applicable regulatory requirements, enhancing customer satisfaction, and having a system for achieving continuous improvements in reaching their objectives. Key content of ISO 9001. ISO 9001-2008 includes the following main sections. Quality management system. An organization needs to establish its processes, determine how the processes interact, what resources are required to maintain them, and how they are measured and improved. When this has been done, then a system for controlling the documentation and the quality manual has to be developed. Management responsibility. Senior management in the organization needs to be familiar with this section, as it is they who are responsible for setting policy, objectives, reviewing the systems, and promoting the effectiveness of the systems within their organization. Resource management. The organization needs to allocate the necessary resources to ensure that the customer receives what they expect to receive. It covers people, equipment, premises, and support services. Product realization. These are the required processes to produce and deliver the products and/or services. Activities such as receiving instructions from customers, designing and developing the products, purchasing the materials and services, and finally the delivery are included. Changes from ISO 9001:1994 to ISO 9001:2000. This was a major upgrade to the standard. Prior to that, it was made up of 3 standards. ISO 9001:1994, Manufacturing with Design and Development. ISO 9002:1994, Production and Installation, No Design. ISO 9003:1994, Final Inspection and Test. These were all merged into a single standard, ISO 9001:2000. For ISO 9001:2000, the 20-clause structure was abandoned and replaced with the 5 sections which are described above. It is process-oriented and follows the operating principle of the Plan, Do, Check, Act PDCA methodology. The new standard became more customer-oriented and expects organizations to communicate with customers and to measure and monitor customer satisfaction. It also emphasizes the need to make improvements and specifies that an organization must evaluate the effectiveness and suitability of its quality management system and to identify and implement systemic improvements. The evidence that training has taken place was no longer sufficient, and instead the effectiveness of the training has to be evaluated. Finally, documentation requirements became less prescriptive and permitted greater flexibility. Implementation of ISO 9000 affects the entire organization right from the start. If pursued with total dedication, it results in cultural transition to an atmosphere of continuous improvement. The process of implementing ISO 9000 depends on the sophistication of existing quality program, the size of an organization, and the complexity of process. The 10 essential steps briefly described below are to be followed through in order to implement ISO 9000 quality management system successfully. Step 1. Top management commitment. Step 2. Establish implementation team. Step 3. Start ISO 9000 awareness programs. Step 4. Provide training. Step 5. Conduct initial status survey. Step 6. Create a documented implementation plan. Step 7. Develop quality management system documentation. Step 8. Document control. Step 9. Implementation. Step 10. Internal quality audit. Top management commitment. The top management, managing director or chief executive, should demonstrate a commitment and a determination to implement an ISO 9000 quality management system in the organization. Without top management commitment, no quality initiative can succeed. Top management must be convinced that registration and certification will enable the organization to demonstrate to its customers a visible commitment to quality. It should realize that a quality management system would improve overall business efficiency by elimination of wasteful duplication in management system. The top management should provide evidence of its commitment to the development and implementation of the quality management system and continually improve its effectiveness by communicating to the organization the importance of meeting customer as well as statutory and regulatory requirements, defining the organization's quality policy and make this known to every employee, ensuring that quality objectives are established at all levels and functions, ensuring the availability of resources required for the development and implementation of the quality management system, establish implementation team. ISO 9000 is implemented by people. The first phase of implementation calls for the commitment of top management, the CEO, and perhaps a handful of other key people. The next step is to establish implementation team and appoint a management representative, MR, as its coordinator to plan and oversee implementation. Its members should include representatives of all functions of the organization: marketing, design and development, planning, production, quality control, etc. In the context of the standard, the MR is the person within the organization who acts as interface between organization management and the ISO 9000 registrar. His role is in fact much broader than that. The MR should also act as the organization's quality management system champion and must be a person with total backing from the CEO, genuine and passionate commitment to quality in general and the ISO 9000 quality management system in particular, the dignity resulting from rank, seniority or both to influence managers and others of all levels and functions, detailed knowledge of quality methods in general and ISO 9000 in particular. The members of the implementation team should also be trained on ISO 9000 quality management systems by a professional training organization. Start ISO 9000 awareness programs. ISO 9000 awareness programs should be conducted to communicate to the employees the aim of the ISO 9000 quality management system, the advantage it offers to employees, customers and the organization, how it will work and their roles and responsibilities within the system. Suppliers of materials and components should also participate in these programs. The awareness program should emphasize the benefits that the organization expects to realize through its ISO 9000 quality management system. The program should also stress the higher levels of participation and self-direction that the quality management system renders to employees. Such a focus will go far to enlist employee support and commitment. The programs could be run either by the implementation team or by experts hired to talk to different levels of employees. Provide training. Since the ISO 9000 quality management system affects all the areas and all personnel in the organization, training programs should be structured for different categories of employees: senior managers, middle level managers, supervisors and workers. The ISO 9000 implementation plan should make provision for this training. The training should cover the basic concepts of quality management systems and the standard and their overall impact on the strategic goals of the organization, the changed processes and the likely work culture implications of the system. Conduct initial status survey. ISO 9000 does not require duplication of effort or redundant system. The goal of ISO 9000 is to create a quality management system that conforms to the standard. This does not preclude incorporating, adapting and adding on to quality programs already in place. So the next step in the implementation process is to compare the organization's existing quality management system, if there is one, with the requirements of the standard ISO 9001-2000. For this purpose, an organization flow chart showing how information actually flows not what should be done, from order placement by the customer to delivery to this customer should be drawn up. From this overall flowchart, a flowchart of activities in each department should be prepared. Document control. Once the necessary quality management system documentation has been generated, a documented system must be created to control it. Control is simply a means of managing the creation, approval, distribution, revision, storage, and disposal of the various types of documentation. Document control systems should be as simple and as easy to operate as possible, sufficient to meet ISO 9001-2000 requirements, and that is all. Document control should include approval for adequacy by authorized persons before issue, review, updating and reapproval of documents by authorized persons, identification of changes and of the revision status of documents, availability of relevant versions of documents at points of use, identification and control of documents of external origin, assurance of legibility and identifiability of documents, and prevention of unintended use of obsolete documents. Now, in the end, let us summarize what we have learnt in this lecture. Quality leading companies realized that quality could not be assured by just a small group of quality control professionals. Instead, quality required the active involvement of the whole organization, from management to ordinary employees. When it is properly implemented, this style of management leads to decreased costs related to corrective or preventative maintenance, better overall performance, and an increased number of happy and loyal customers. Although all areas of the company's quality assurance program are required to be in compliance with the standard, management should perform extra reviews to ascertain compliance in these above areas. It is good practice to implement the quality management system being documented as the documentation is developed, although this may be more effective in larger firms.